Senator, I want to ask you about something Americans have heard about just recently. There's been a cyber attack on the government. As a U.S. Senator, what questions do you have that must be answered?
Well, number one, we're not very well prepared against what I think could be a cyber Pearl Harbor. If you ask me where we're exposed here, the gaps between us and our adversaries on the conventional arena is pretty large, but on cyber, not so much. So what I would like to do, working with Sheldon Whitehouse, who's a Democrat from Rhode Island, is to harden our critical infrastructure. This is a hard problem to deal with because your power grid, your financial services industries, chemical plants, dams, are all in the private sector. And what the government has to do is to incentivize the private sector in the areas of critical infrastructure to up their game, use best business practices, and reward them with liability protections if they do. But what you have is a nation state like China, Russia, and North Korea who are trying to penetrate us in terms of stealing our intellectual property and going into our national security infrastructure. China needs to pay a price for this.
And what price should that be?
We shouldn't treat them as a normal nation when they do abnormal things.
About what should be done?
We should probably change the way we trade with China. We should put them on notice, and we should get with the Europeans. It's just not us they're hacking into. It's easier to steal things than it is to invent it. And this is a form of intimidation. The Russians engage in this. So at the end of the day, what I would do if I were president, I would have a meeting in a private setting with Chinese leadership and say, we know what you're doing and we're tired of it, and you're going to pay a price if you continue. We would suffer a bit too, but the only way I know to get people to change the behavior is to up the cost of it.
But the cost or the price, as you put it, would be interrupting trade.
I think it would be changing the rules of trade. It would be treating them not as a most favored nation, but as an adversary. China is very provocative right now. These islands they're building in the South China Sea is an attempt to basically control resource-rich waters where there's a dispute as to who owns the underlying territory, the undersea resources, not by negotiating through international bodies, but by literally building man-made islands with military battalions on top. That, to me, can't be allowed to stand because you're destroying the concept of the international rule of law. And if I were president, I would tell the Chinese, if you don't stop this, everybody in Asia, including the Americans, we're going to build islands right by you.
But that's all you do. You wouldn't move in military force.
No, I don't want to go to war with China, but I would not allow them to steal resources that belong to others. And if they challenge the free navigation of the seas or the air, they would do so at their own peril.